The iPhone 14 Plus has been on the market well over 6 months already. Comes with a 6.7-inch Super Retina XDR OLED display. It does not have the 120 Hz ProMotion. It is rocking 6 gigabytes of RAM with the Apple A15 Bionic, and it does use the older notch that you'll find on the 13 Pro Max. And it does house a 4323 milliamp hour battery. And the cameras are dual 12 megapixel cameras capable of the 4K 60 recording with an action mode. Same diagonal format you'll find on the iPhone 13 as well as the iPhone 13 mini. I did go with the product red vibrant. This is a very vibrant red I found, and over my time I've enjoyed it. But how has this iPhone 14 Plus been over the long term? Well, this is going to be my honest take on this phone. Now, this phone does push around $899, close to $1,000, even more than $1,000 if you want to up the storage. So as we get closer to the iPhone 15 Pro, 15 Plus, I'm looking forward to seeing a faster refresh display. That's the first thing I want to talk about. I just want to see ProMotion on the next version. It doesn't have to be 120 Hertz. It could even be like a 90 Hertz version. But it would be nice to just have the 120 Hz since most Android phones are putting it here. I think Apple could still keep one less camera and still put a 120 Hz panel. I still think they can reserve the more premium cameras for the Pro models while still having this option have a smoother display. So long term, honest review, I still kind of miss ProMotion. Well, kind of is an understatement. I definitely miss ProMotion when using this phone. You could see it's definitely a little more choppy. Now, the target user of this phone would probably never care because they likely are coming from a phone that didn't even have ProMotion. I don't think most Pro users would have picked this phone anyway, but that's the first thing I have to be honest about with you. I still regret not having 120 Hertz on here. Like I say, if it wasn't for the channel and covering the phones to help you guys out, I probably personally wouldn't have purchased this one as my main iPhone, and it's still not my main iPhone. That would be the iPhone 14 Pro Max. One thing I really like about the iPhone 14 Plus in my long-term usage is the aluminum rails. You can see how still clean they look since September of 2022. I mean, this is just a super clean aluminum edge here. And while it's not the most premium, it's not titanium, stainless steel, nothing like that. I just really like the aluminum rails. I also like how light the iPhone 14 Plus does feel. It's definitely a much lighter feeling phone than what you would expect for this size. Kind of reminding you more of the older iPhone 7 Plus, which was lighter and still big, giving you that feel once again. So really do appreciate the feel of this phone in the hand. It's very light and much more, I would say, manageable than an iPhone 14 Pro Max in terms of if you're going to use a big phone, it's already big in your pocket, you might as well make it light. I will say that this red has been beautiful as well. I know a lot of people aren't into this really zingy red. They might prefer a deeper, more lipstick red, but this one for me is just right up my alley. I really like this red colorway here. Now, I do expect to see a red color option on the iPhone 15 Pro Max. We probably see a burgundy or something like that. We'll have to see what Apple brings. But, you know, I just love product red iPhones. They look amazing. Now, I will say, though, that the glass long term definitely picks up smudges. So if you get a darker color like the Midnight, that one will definitely show a lot of fingerprints. The Starlight probably not so much, and the blue color option not so much. The red doesn't show too much either, but it's definitely more smudgy on the back here. And this glass is more vulnerable to crack than, say, like an iPhone 14 Pro, which doesn't have straight up glass on the rear. It's more like an etched glass. So I feel like this would crack easier than an iPhone 14 Pro or Pro Max. So yeah, long-term honest take, you know, the bezels aren't the thinnest on a phone anymore, but they're still quite thin. It still just reminds me of yesteryear iPhones. Even though I've had it, you know, all these months now, it's never felt like a brand new phone. It felt like another iPhone that we already kind of experienced. The main difference, though, is that you do get yourself more of that standard 13, 14 feel on a much larger body. In addition to that, I have appreciated its 203 grams size and weight for, you know, being this type of phone. And overall, I gotta say, design-wise, it's just pretty much average. It didn't really impress me over this time. You know, I just never looked at this phone and felt like, oh my, this is just so amazing. It just feels like another iPhone product that we've already seen before, but just bigger. So I like that they brought the Plus, but I feel like they kind of didn't give us what we want out of a Plus phone. They gave us a high price with a phone that wasn't really redesigned or nothing. So it didn't feel overly exciting. Now, I did talk about the display earlier, not liking the non 120 hertz, but I do like the overall display. It is about the same as the iPhone 12 Pro Max, but what I like about it is that it's pretty easy to see outside, it's plenty bright, and while it is a 60 hertz, it is the smoothest 60 hertz I've seen on 60 hertz phones. I also think it's got pretty relatively sharp text. It doesn't have the sharpest pixel density out there. There's phones that are cheaper than this, much cheaper than this, that have sharper pixel density, but they don't have brighter screens. They don't usually have as well tuned, accurate panels. And of course, you're not getting the iOS experience on a lot of those phones at those much cheaper price points. So I can live with the fact that Apple didn't put their best display on here, but it's hard to recommend this phone right now considering they're likely to go ahead and throw on a 120 hertz on the next version. If they don't, that would be pretty disappointing. I think even, why do you gotta be a pro user to enjoy a super smooth panel? You shouldn't have to be. I think even regular consumers would appreciate having an iPhone that just feels smoother. I think even regular consumers can definitely, see those differences. It doesn't take somebody who just reads about tech all day or learns about tech all day to understand that, okay, this phone just looks and feels smoother. So yeah, display overall, I would say like an 8 out of 10. It's pretty bright. It's really sharp. It feels smooth, but it's just not buttery smooth like you'll find on the iPhone 14 Pro Max. Now, the iOS 16 experience has actually been pretty buggy, honestly. Not so much on this phone. I found it a little bit more buggy on the 14 Pro Max, but it's been definitely updated. It's better than when it launched, but I've had multiple times where the apps will take a little long to load. And I mean, look at this, like it just sometimes, I don't know what it is about iOS 16. It's just been a little slower than I'm used to from iOS, and seeing other phones really ramp up optimization and get better at their software on competing brands. iOS, I think, needs to have a new update. 17, I hope, brings some really big speed changes. That would be nice. But I'm not saying the phone's slow. The phone is still plenty fast enough in everyday usage. But here's the thing. There's other phones out there, again, that are 3 times less that feel snappier than this phone. I'm looking at you, Poco. I'm looking at you, these cheaper Pixel 7a devices with these smoother displays in the iPhone 14 Plus. So, it's just, iOS is great. Long software support, amazing apps, super amazing polish on these applications. And there's no real major issues with the software, but the weather has lagged up a few times, not being able to see the weather in my location. Apps have crashed a few times. And honestly, I just think it hasn't been the most, reliable experience that I've seen in past years for the iOS experience. But still, it's still tried and true iOS. It's going to be that software you know and love with the App Store, all the Apple ecosystem stuff. I'm not knocking the software. All I'm saying is that the software on this phone particularly and the other 14 models hasn't been as fast as what I've seen and reliable as what I've seen on the iPhone 13 model year, which was like they knocked it out of the park. So just a few more updates, maybe iOS 17, and we'll probably see perfect performance, because that's kind of what I expect from iOS. I expect perfect performance. So when I talk about this, I am nitpicking because, a few app crashes here and there is no big deal. But when you have iOS, you kind of expect the best of the best, considering you're paying the highest prices for smartphones here. Foldables are more, but that's just because of the hardware. But in terms of this, you are paying pretty high price points, so you expect flawless performance. Now, long term with the chipset, it really hasn't really made me feel any type of way that I have the A15 Bionic. I don't really care that I don't have an A16. I don't care that I don't have an A17 in here. This chip is overpowered already. So no matter what you're doing, whether you're using the camera, whether you're using, the action mode, whatever you want to be doing on this phone, it does not matter. It has the power to keep up with you pretty much every day. You've seen my speed test with this phone. It's done flawless. It's really beat on some other phones. So definitely there's no issue here. A15 is a beast of a smartphone. So I would not worry at all about picking this phone up when it comes to, going ahead and getting really blazing fast CPU performance. No issue. Can run games, apps, whatever you want to do. No issue. As a matter of fact, it's so powerful, the CPU, that it out-benchmarks most Android phones. But the thing is that with this phone, I don't have no ability to split screen on this phone, which is kind of weird because I got all this power and I cannot even use it on this big screen to multitask. How is that a plus phone, Apple? Can we get some split screen multitasking? I would really appreciate that on my next purchase of a 14 Plus upgrade, like an iPhone 15 Plus. Now, camera-wise, this camera has been fantastic. There really is no major issues with the camera. It's an iPhone camera. This is actually pictures I took on this phone. What do you want else, like, from a camera? You get super sharp results. You get really good, front-facing camera as well. So there's no real issue with this either. It has a really good video quality. Skin tones are nice. There is one particular issue, but I don't even know anymore if this is an issue for people because, there is not enough zoom on this phone. But do you think people that are buying a Plus want more zoom? Let me know your thoughts down below. I've been thinking about this for a while. I do think that maybe the target customer of this may not care, but also I still think even giving it like 10x zoom, maybe even 15 and then go like 30 or 50 on the next iPhone Pro model would give this more of a value add. But then they would have to throw a triple camera on here. So I don't know if we're going to see that, but it would be really nice to see more zoom. Other than that, you're getting about the same results you'll get on a Pro Max, which is pretty fantastic, and you'll get 4K 60. Now, 4K 60 is enough for me. Some people probably want to see, 8K, but I'm pretty good with 4K 60. I'm not upset with them there. The results of the cameras are fantastic on the rear and the front, but again, if you're looking for zoom, you're looking for more pro results, even now, I can't recommend this phone. There's even cheaper phones that can zoom much farther than this and do a little bit more when it comes to the features. But you do have great software in the iOS App Store to give you even some better camera software than you would find on some competing Android phones. So I do have to say that Apple does have a really wide developer base of great applications, third party. So you can really take it up a notch here on the iPhone with some really polished camera apps. So there's a lot of fun to be had here. I'm just saying there is alternative options with more hardware lenses for much cheaper. And when it comes to the battery life of the iPhone 14 Plus, I gotta tell you, it's been really good. Like the best on any iPhone 14 model. This thing just lasts and lasts and lasts. And if you're looking for, better iPhone battery, that's the main thing you're looking for on a 14 model. This is the one to pick up. This is the king of the 14 battery life, mostly because it's not rocking the 120 hertz panel, so it doesn't have to suck more juice. Also, it doesn't have that extra brightness on the screen. It doesn't go 2000 nits like the iPhone 14 Pro Max. So this phone overall just is going to give you really good battery life. Couple that with the fact that if you turn on the low battery mode right here, it just goes and goes and goes. So definitely, I'm very happy with the battery life. Not so happy with the charging. It's not a USB-C and it's not very fast to charge, but it lasts so long that you'll probably throw this on a charger when you're not even playing around with the phone anyway, and it'll charge up in no time, and then you'll be ready to go anyway. So the charging, while slow, probably not a deal breaker considering that a lot of these phones that charge really fast don't last nearly as long as an iPhone 14. And while some phone makers like OnePlus have been bragging about their standby time, the iPhone 14 Plus has some of the best standby time in the game. You don't turn this phone on, it barely drains anything. So really good battery life here on the iPhone 14 Plus. So wrapping it up, we're very close here to the iPhone 15 models. Long term, my honest opinions on this phone. If I'm being totally honest and real with you, the truth is that I've covered this phone a few times, but at this point, I'm kind of bored with it. I want to see what they bring next. I just feel like it's just a standard big iPhone, but with a really high price tag. It's really hard to justify purchasing this over some other options out there, though, if you really pay attention to the tech you're getting. If you need an iPhone, your iPhone only, you need a large one, and you don't care about having the best specs, it's kind of the same story as before. This is the phone for you. Comes in midnight, comes in purple, comes in this red colorway option, also comes in yellow now, and of course the product red, Starlight. So there's quite a few options and colors. You can go up to 512 gigs, which really jacks the price up. And I don't think most people are going to be disappointed with this, but here's why I have buyer's remorse, is that I'm paying all this money and I know there's phones that have better specs for the same money. So this is going to be a great used pickup in a couple years, but I'm really excited to see what they bring with the iPhone 15 Plus, if they really take our thoughts and considerations and put it into the next phone, maybe a 120 hertz, a little bit more zoom. Then we have a steal of a deal on the next option. So let's see what happens in a few months here. Let me know your thoughts on the iPhone 14 Plus. Did you pick one up? Do you plan on picking one up or not? Let us know in the comments down below. If you have a 14 Plus, share your thoughts. Again, I'll probably give this phone like an 8 out of 10. Thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you haven't already. Nick here. Be sure to be well, and peace.